It used to be that getting really professional sounds out of our podcast mixes meant having a deep understanding of things like EQ, compression, limiting, denoise, de-essing, volume automation, and a lot more. Well, that is until now. Waves has made a really cool bundle called the Content Creator Audio Toolkit. And in this video, we're going to download that bundle. It comes with 4 different plugins. And what's really cool about the Waves plugins is that you can use them with any DAW or any audio editing software. And in this video, we're going to be using Reaper, and Reaper.fm is my favorite DAW for independent podcasters. But like I said, you can use this with any DAW that you're using. This is going to be a lot of fun. And by the end of this video, your podcast is going to sound really good. Hey, Podcastero, welcome to the Pod Sound School. I'm Studio Steve. I'm a big-time podcast nerd, audio engineer, podcast editor, and I'm the creative director of the Pod Sound School. Here on our channel, every week, we make really helpful videos to take your podcast to the next level, so consider subscribing. I am really excited to show you these plugins. I just discovered them, and I just checked them out in Reaper.fm myself. And it's one of the first bundles and the first set of plugins that I've found that actually has podcast presets that are all ready to use. And all you really have to do inside these plugins is just turn them on and kind of adjust one knob. So they're very easy to use, and I'm really excited to share them with you. We're going to take a look at all 4 plugins on a podcast episode, a remote podcast episode that we're going to throw into Reaper. And we're going to look at all 4 plugins. You can find the timestamps just by hovering the video below if you want to skip ahead to any of the plugins or if you want to come back if you're following along. But these are really easy to use, and I highly recommend throwing them on your podcast voices. Get the free trial from Waves. See if you like them. I think it's a really good bang for your buck too. So let's get right to it. But before we do, if you are brand new to podcast editing and you want to get up and running fast and learn how to edit like a pro, save a ton of time with professional editing techniques, I've put together a really fun course called Reaper for Podcasters that will get you up and running in Reaper quick. It's streamlined, cut through all the BS, tells you exactly what you need to know to be a really great podcast editor. You can check that out by going to podcastingsmart.com, R4P, Reaper for Podcasters. Okay, let's not waste any more time. Let's get to using the first of the 4 plugins. Okay, the first thing you'll need to do is go to waves.com and search for Content Creator Audio Toolkit, or you'll find the link in the description of this video. You can add it to the cart and download it for $99, or you'll find a Get Demo option, and you can get the demo and try that out for 7 days. Then Waves will prompt you to download their Waves Central application. This will allow you to manage all of your plugins that you purchase with Waves in the future. You can just follow the prompt to install and activate the Content Creator Audio Toolkit, and you're good to go. Okay, so now that we have that downloaded, let's open up Reaper. This is what Reaper looks like when you first open it up. And this isn't going to be a Reaper tutorial, but just to get familiar with Reaper, up here we have a timeline. This is where we can record or drag files in and actually chop them up and edit them. And then down here we have a mixer. If in either one of these gray areas you simply double click, you'll start a new track. And to get rid of the tracks you started, you just highlight them and press the delete key. This is really cool because you can throw it into record right here by pressing this record button and immediately start recording your podcast. Or in the case of today's video, you can find some files that you have and drag them in. So in this case, we're going to go to riverside.fm, and I'm going to borrow a project from a client. This is the You're Such a Catch podcast. I'm going to download an interview that Aaron did with Brent. If you are unfamiliar with Riverside FM, it's a really great solution for remote recording. You can go to podsoundschool.com/Riverside to find out more. Riverside captures really high quality remote audio and video for your podcast and your content. So definitely check Riverside out. But now that we have those files downloaded, we can simply drag them into this Reaper project. On a Mac, I like to just come down here to the Finder and hover to where those files are, grab them, and drag them in. When we drag them into Reaper, Reaper will ask us, do you want these on separate tracks or a single track? We'll go ahead and say separate tracks. And here they are on separate tracks. This is beautiful. You can see on top we have Brent, on bottom we have Aaron. We can hover over the track to the left here until we see this icon, which allows us to make our tracks a little bigger. And I like that a lot because I like to see what I'm working with. Another little hint here in Reaper is you can press Command or Control M on a PC, and M stands for mixer, and you can hide this mixer window and you can toggle that on and off if you really want a lot of real estate to work with. And I like to do that sometimes as well. So here we are. And a lot of times the very first stage that you're going to do in your podcast editing is to chop things up, take all the unwanted parts out, and to do that preliminary sort of editing and cutting and pasting and things. After we do that, that's when we would typically apply effects like compression and EQ and all of that. So let's just assume that we've already done that, and let's just take a look at these 4 effects. So the very first effect that many podcast editors will apply very first is noise reduction. It's a good idea to apply noise reduction first in your effect chain, as you call it, before you start applying EQ and compression and all that. It's always a good practice to apply your noise reduction first. So let's take a look at Aaron's track here, and let's look at our very first plugin on the list, and that is the NS1 Noise Suppressor. So we can come here to Aaron's voice, and I'm going to solo her voice. I'm actually going to press Command M to hide that mixer and make her voice nice and big, and we'll make Brent's voice a little teenier because we're just going to focus in on Aaron's voice. And now to put that effect onto her track, all I have to do is press this effects button right here, and it pops up with our effects. This is really cool. Here in this effects panel, Reaper makes it really easy for you to navigate and find the effects. If you're on all plugins, you can just type in the name of an effect like comp or limiter, and it will show you all the compressor and limiter effects that you have. Or you can even look by developer. So down here, if you scroll down where it says developer, we have Waves. And now here are all the Waves plugins that we just downloaded and got for only $99, which is a really cool deal. Here, let's choose not voice centric. We're actually going to go down to NS1 mono. This is a mono track. And we'll say add. This is a really simple plugin on the surface, but underneath the surface in this really simple design, there's a lot going on. It's analyzing your audio file, and it's getting rid of the noise like buzzes and things in the background, and it's also reducing reverb or doing de-reverb. And you choose how much of the noise you want reduced by how high you turn this one knob here. If you go all the way up, you're going to get kind of a gating or a suction noise that happens. So you don't want to push it too hard. You want to find the sweet spot, but you just listen to a moment, and it's very easy to find the sweet spot. So let's go ahead and do that. But first, what I want to do is I want to listen to Aaron's track without the effect on, which is really easy to do by just bypassing. And you can bypass effects in Reaper very easily by just clicking on this check mark right here. You can also click on the check mark over here as well. So we're going to turn it off by having it deselected. Let's just listen to Aaron's track and see if we can hear if there's noise on there.
So in regards to this though, so every year, right before the new year, I take some time, sit down with myself, quiet my mind.
Okay, so in Aaron's recording there, I could hear some computer buzz, very subtle computer buzz, and also some reverb in the room she's in. So let's hear what the NS1 noise suppressor sounds like on her voice. The first thing we can do is grab the built-in podcast preset that's inside of this effect, which is so cool. If we come up here to where it says default preset, you'll see that we have presets here, and one of them is voice podcast. You'll also see Mike Russell here. If you're unfamiliar with Mike Russell and his YouTube channel, I love the work that he does with Radio Creative, and he actually collaborated with Waves to get some really cool podcast and content creation presets in here for you, which is really great. So here with default preset, down here, we can just choose voice podcast because that's what this is. And this will make some things happen in the background of this effect that are really going to help us find the right sound. So here it's already sort of defaulting that at 30 here. Let's hear what that sounds like on her voice. I'll just press spacebar for play.
So in regards to this though, so every year, right before the new year, I take some time, sit down with myself.
Okay, and if I were to crank it all the way up, we'll hear that the effect becomes way too heavy.
So in regards to this though, so every year, right before the new year, I take some time, sit down with myself, quiet my mind. I start, thinking about what I was able to accomplish.
So I liked that 30 setting, but on this particular voice, I might even drag it down a little bit more, maybe to like a 25 type setting.
So in regards to this though,
you see what's happening with this meter here is it's creating a gate. So this has a gate in it, a noise gate. It also has a de-reverb setting in it. There's a lot going on in the background, and this is so easy just with the playing with this one knob. You can find that sweet spot for your podcast voice, and now the noise has been reduced. Let's see what this sounds like on Brent's voice. So I'll solo up Brent's voice, and I'll rinse and repeat the same process. The first thing I'm going to do with Brent's voice, though, is you can see it's really pumped. It's really hot. So we're actually going to, with this red line here, I'm going to click on it and drag it down until it looks like it's about the size of Aaron's voice here. And that was just reducing the gain of his voice. And this is pretty common with our remote interviews. We see the guest voice really pumped. So it's really cool to just be able to reduce the gain here. And then let's go here and have a listen to his voice without any effects on it.
When COVID started, I just, hell with it, man. The only place that was really easy to eat at was the taco shop. So I would go in there in the morning and get a breakfast burrito. And then I'd go in there in the afternoon and I'd get a carne asada burrito.
Okay, so you heard a lot of reverb there. I didn't really hear too much noise or buzzing, but there's probably some of that there as well. So let's go ahead and say effects. Reaper remembers what we were just on here. So we have our NS1 mono. So let's go ahead and add that. And now we can come up here to the preset, go to voice podcast, and let's have a listen with just the preset.
When COVID started, I just, hell with it, man. You know, the only place that was really easy to eat at was the taco shop.
Okay, let's try increasing it as we listen and hear what that sounds like.
When COVID started, I just, hell with it, man. You know, the only place that was really easy to eat at was the taco shop. So I would go in there in the morning and get a breakfast burrito. And then I go in there
And
and
you see, if I really crank it, the reverb goes away almost completely. But we have to find a balance because the reverb goes away, but it also now has this suction sort of gate suppression sounding noise to it. So it's all about finding the balance per podcast voice. You'll have to do this individually on each voice, but look how easy it is. So I think I'm liking him right around 40-ish. Let's have a listen.
when COVID started, I just, hell with it, man. You know, the only place that was really easy to eat at was the taco shop. So I would go in there in the morning and get a breakfast.
Okay, so now with his voice, let's just go ahead and toggle this on and off and see if you can hear the difference. So I'm going to start it with the effect on, then I'll press this check mark here to toggle it off. Here we go. Here's with it on.
When COVID started, I just, hell with it, man. You know, the only place that was really easy to eat at was the taco shop. So I would go in there in the morning and get a breakfast burrito. And then I'd go in there in the afternoon and I'd get a carne asada burrito, you know, and in the evening I'd eat you know.
I mean, that's really cool. And then as you're listening to it, if you hear places where it's kind of suppressing too much, maybe you can come and just knock it off a little bit. But I mean, this already is such an improvement and his voice is so much more controlled and that reverb has been killed very easily. So now both Aaron's voice and Brent's voice sound really great with a little bit of noise reduction. Okay, now let's move on to the second effect in the bundle, and this is the Greg Wells voice-centric effect. Greg Wells is a world-class audio engineer, and he worked with Waves for a long time to build this effect. He's more of a music production guy, but this effect also sounds so good on podcast voices. So let's go ahead and throw this on Aaron's voice to start with. I'm going to solo Aaron's voice. Let's find a place where she is talking a lot. How about right here? This looks pretty good. And let's listen to her voice now. Again, it has the noise reduction on it, but let's listen to it without any more effects.
Telling me all about the job, da 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 da. But it's going to require a big commitment for me, right? I'm going to have to leave everything that I have known.
Okay, and now let's throw on the voice centric. We can come back to this effects panel here and we can say add, and we'll add another effect. And now this time, instead of NS1, we'll say voice centric mono, and we'll add that. And now the voice centric you'll see in Reaper here is underneath this NS1 mono, which means it's happening after the noise reduction. So now with this, it's the same thing as with all the other effects that we're going to take a look at. There's a podcast preset. Just look to where it says factory default. There's a little drop down arrow, and here we can see all the presets. Again, Mike Russell has some. These are actual presets he uses on his content. But look, there's a voice podcast preset right here. Let's click here, and let's have a listen to what Aaron's voice sounds like with this preset on.
Telling me all about the job, da 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 da. But it's going to require a big commitment for me, right? I'm going to.
Okay, now let's listen to it without the effect.
Telling me all about the job, da 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 da. But it's going to require a big.
And now with the effect again.
Telling me all about the job.
And this time I'm going to raise the effect.
Telling me all about the job, da 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 da. But it's going to require a big commitment for me, right? I'm going to have to leave everything that I have known for the last, 10.
Now you'll notice with the effect, we have this meter here and it says GR. This is gain reduction. So this is helping all of the parts where it gets too loud. It's reducing those parts while pushing up the parts that are softer. That's what compression does. And it's doing that for us. But it also has a little de-esser that's working in here and a little EQ that is working behind the scenes to give the voice a little more sparkle, very tastefully. And so what I like to do here with Aaron's voice actually is I'm noticing that I'm not getting enough gain reduction. As a good rule of thumb, I like about a 3 decibel gain reduction with most of my podcast voices. And I was only up here even in the one area. And that's because her voice in general, her track here isn't very loud. She never gets very loud. So I'm just going to actually give her whole track a little more gain to begin with. And I think that will work better with all the effects that we're going to be using it with. So now if I come here and let's listen.
For some reason in the kitchen pantry. And then I remember we were having discussions and you were like,
okay, but now that I have increased her gain, I'm hearing a little more spark, a little more noise. So let's go back to now the NS1 and we can adjust the levels of the NS1, see if we can get rid of that noise and that kind of hiss that I'm hearing.
Discussions and you were like, Aaron, you got to take your life into your, own hands here and like, figure out what you want to do, where you want to go. And that's when I started to kind of put things in motion.
So now her voice sounds really good. It's been compressed. It has the noise reduction. There's some EQ on there and some de-essing that gets rid of those sort of harsh S noises a little bit. So it sounds really great, and it was so easy. Now we can do the same thing with Brent's voice. Let's hear what that sounds like. I'll go ahead and just solo his voice. We'll go to the effect here. And after this, we say add, rinse and repeat, kind of do the same thing, voice-centric mono. Let's hear what the voice-centric podcast voice or voice podcast preset sounds like on Brent's voice. And I'll go ahead and press spacebar for play.
People got to get things out. And yeah, that conversation you have with yourself, that conversation I have every day with myself, it's the most important.
You see how already with Brent's voice, there was a lot more gain reduction happening because he was already pushed a lot on his recording. So we might want to leave this a little more subtle here and we don't want to over compress or over add an effect to a voice that already has a lot of effects on it. So let's find a sweet spot with Brent's voice.
People got to get things out. And yeah, that conversation you have with yourself, that conversation I have every day with myself, it's the most important conversation there is. And once again, you're here today to remind me of that. Everything that you say I taught you, I mean, it's just coming right back at me. And it works. It really, really works. What we talked about, this goal set.
Okay, now I'm getting that kind of 3 decibel gain reduction I like. You don't want to see this gain reduction crunching all the way down to -12 here. If it is, definitely come back with the intensity here. But for most podcast voices, you can simply just put the preset on and it's already good to go, which is what I love about these effects. All right, so now we have their 2 voices sounding really good. Let's go ahead and move on to the third effect in the chain, and that is the playlist writer. I love this effect. It's really cool. And it's actually an effect that we're not going to put on any one of the voices. We're actually going to put it on the master channel. What's a master channel? Don't worry, it's not that complicated if you don't know what it is already. A master channel is a stereo channel, and it's the place that all of the elements, whether it's our podcast voices, music, sound effects, anything that we have in our podcast project, all goes to a final destination before it gets exported. And that destination is our master channel, or the stereo bus, sometimes you'll hear it say. And this just gives us one last opportunity to apply some effects, like mastering effects, maybe you've heard, before we export it. And that's where we're going to apply the playlist writer, because the playlist is looking at everything that is in our podcast mixes, and it's going to adjust the volume accordingly. And it's actually very much going to basically do this. It's going to be writing the faders or writing the volume and giving gain and taking gain away from and reducing gain from the podcast mix at a targeted podcast level, which is really cool. Because in doing this, it's not actually doing anything like compressing or using a dynamic range compressor, which is what we just used a little bit with the voice centric. By using a dynamic range compressor, sometimes your voices just get so overly compressed, they don't sound natural. But you still need to hear the places where maybe the person backs away from the microphone a little bit, or maybe they kind of speak under their breath and they forget to be having that good podcast performance. So normally in your podcast edit, you would have to go through and actually make those volume adjustments. Like here in Erin's voice, you can see right here, she gets a little quieter. I'd have to use this volume adjustment here in Reaper or any other DAW to sort of turn the volume up and down. And you can see I make sort of volume adjustments here on Erin's voice, and you do that a lot. Well, with the playlist writer, you can save yourself all that time in mixing, and you don't have to do any of that, which is really fun. So let me show you how it works. Similar to a track here, instead of clicking the effects on either one of these tracks, we can click the effects on the master track here, and that's where we're going to apply the playlist writer. Now, instead of mono, since this is a stereo left and right master track, we're actually going to use the playlist writer for stereo. And here it is. And just like all the other effects, we have a preset. Thank you, Waves. And here it says default preset. And from the drop-down menu, look at what we have here. We have Vocal Podcast. The other thing that's really cool that you'll see here is we have Apple Podcast, which is great, and it's -16 dB. And then we also have YouTube, which is -14 dB. What do these two numbers mean? it refers to something called LUFS or LUFS. And this is a loudness standard. Minus 16 dB is actually what Apple asks for. That's how they want you to give them your podcast. And minus 14 dB is what YouTube wants or what Spotify wants for music. And so it's good to know these things, because if you give them something louder than that, which is what a lot of people will do because they'll limit their podcast really heavily, add a lot of compression, and it's way above minus 16 decibels, then these platforms will use their own compression and their own effects to sort of standardize all the podcasts on their directory, or all the videos on their directory, especially with YouTube, and you'll get even more compression on your voice than what you had beforehand. So it's really cool to pay attention and to monitor your loudness. And this is just like loudness. It's like so hard for us to wrap our brain around, but Waves has made it really easy with this. All you have to do is come in here, and let's say this export is going to be for Apple Podcasts. I would just say Apple Podcast Music, minus 16 dB. And let's listen to what it does. Okay, so let's go to this part here in the mix where Aaron is actually where Aaron's talking here. And let's watch what the effect is doing when Aaron's talking. I can make this bigger so we can see the whole effect.
What I need to do in terms of weight loss or whatever.
You see this knob here is actually gain, and it's auto writing the gain, and it's adding quite a bit of gain to Aaron's voice. What's cool here is it's not compressing her voice. It's just bringing the overall volume of it up, which is really nice. It's not interfering with the natural dynamics of her voice. That's really cool.
What I need to do in terms of.
But then when we get over to Brent's voice, where he's really loud and already compressed, let's see what the gain does.
It with a positive thought.
That's just one spoke of the success wheel. You know,
and you see how it took a second and brought it down there. And that's really cool. And I love this effect so much. This one effect will improve your podcast mixes like crazy, and will also ensure that you're giving the platforms, whether it's your podcast or your YouTube videos, you're giving them your volume, your audio professionally at the levels they want it at. And down here, finally, with this effect, you'll see where it says attack. We have slow or fast. This effect for podcasts, this preset, defaults at slow, and that means it's not going to make the effect happen really quick, and that's cool. I like to leave it there because it's a more natural feeling. But if for some reason you wanted the volume adjustments to happen super quick between speakers or whatever, you could put it to fast and experiment between that as well. So this is really cool. If you want this effect to maybe even be applied even more, you can play around with this detector or this threshold here. It defaults at minus 36, which I think is a great default. So I'm just going to leave it there for now.
With a positive thought.
That's just one spoke of the success wheel. You know what I mean?
Cool. So that is really awesome that it has already made our target minus 16. And then you can see you could also just adjust the target of it here as well too. So now, while I'm on the master track here, let's move on to our fourth and final effect, WLM Plus. I love this effect. It's a meter that allows us to listen through our podcast mix once we're done and sort of make a couple little adjustments to make sure that it's really being mastered and exported the way that it should. So let's take a look at that. We'll say add here. It already is under developers and waves, really easy to find here. And we're going to select WLM Plus stereo right here and add. And there we are. Now, again, right here, it has a podcast preset. So let's come here to the podcast preset. And look, we see the same preset here, Apple Podcast Music. So we're going to keep it to that same preset. What that's going to do is that's going to tell this plugin that minus 16 LUFS, and you can see the LUFS right here, that's our target. That's where we want it to happen. And then all we have to do is move this knob around until it gives us a check mark here and tells us that, hey, you're at minus 16. And you'll notice these two meters here, short term and long term. Let's listen here to both Aaron and Brent. I'll play a little bit of Aaron and then a little bit of Brent, and let's listen to it.
I need to make sure that there is no negative self-talk. And if I have a negative thought creep into my head, I need to.
So you see right here, we're at minus 18. So we might need to actually take this gain while she's speaking and bring it up a little bit to get that.
I need to make sure that there is no negative self-talk. And if I have a negative thought creep into my head, I need to immediately ping pong.
And you see how it gave us the check mark? Say, yep, long term, with her voice, you're hitting minus 16. But I'm guessing when we go over to Brent, we might find a different situation. So let's listen to Brent's voice.
Immediately ping pong it with a positive thought.
That's just one spoke of the success wheel. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So you can see how he's actually a lot louder when he's talking. It's more up to the -13 area. So I might need to make some adjustments to his voice separately. And that's what this is telling me. Hey, when Brent's talking, he's a lot louder than Aaron. So this is really valuable to know. So there's a lot of ways I can make adjustments to his volume. I could actually just turn his volume down here if I wanted to on his volume meter, just with the volume of this track. I could go into any one of the effects that he has on his voice, like this voice centric, and I can just turn the output down from the voice centric a little bit. And I can just do that. Maybe we'll kill his volume here a little bit too. And I could also turn the overall gain of his voice down quite a bit too. And let's hear that. And then sometimes with this effect, you'll see how it says short term here. You need to press this reset button so that it can start over again and start reading again. You'll remember this reset button because you'll have to press it. This middle number won't move. And you're like, hey, I'm moving this. It's not moving at all.
I mean, yeah, you got to have your minds, you got to have your plan, you got to have your vision, you got to have your focus, but then you got to.
Cool. There we go. So as you can see, I just adjusted the gain of Brent until I really had to adjust his gain and get him down to where really basically is get his wave files here, his wave forms that we see to look like on average, they're about the same level as Aaron's voice. You see how now on average here, they're super compressed. So his just look like a rectangle. It's because his are already really compressed the way this recording was. But Aaron has a lot of dynamics. She has really loud spots. But on average, hers are looking kind of like this. So we can move his waveform until his waveform kind of looks on average. So all of our waveforms kind of look like the average part of the waveforms are all kind of the same size. And then we're in a good position to try this out. So let's look at that effect one more time with Aaron and see if it gives us that check mark for 16 LUFS.
Had a situation with somebody who I
Okay, and now just playing around with Aaron's levels a little bit, I got her to get this check mark as well too. And you don't have to get your entire podcast episode to get this check mark in this plugin. All you really have to do is get a part of your podcast that's representative of the rest of the podcast. So a nice average part. So maybe where your speakers are talking back and forth and there's a lot of changes happening. See if you can get this -16. Really, you just want to shoot for as close to -16 LUFS as you can for Apple Podcasts, or -14, which is a little bit louder, 2 decibels louder for YouTube. And if you stay at that -14 and below, then YouTube won't really apply its heavy compressors to standardize your video for the platform, which means your already compressed voices won't become even more compressed and sound overdriven. So there you have it, Podski. What do you think? Did you find this video useful? Let me know in the comments below. I love to respond to the Podskis here on YouTube, and I'd love to hear about your podcast and your show. Go ahead and tell me about your podcast in the links below, and I will come check out your podcast. And until next time, happy editing, good luck with your show, and we'll catch you on the next video.